Hey audience, not sure if you knew this, but Kyle, he's actually only 29 years old. Yeah, 29 years old and taking down deals like this.
When you start ordering 10 of everything, you start dealing with different departments. That's the first time I've ever bought a trailer full of stuff. You know, there's $1 million that they're waiting on. They're not going to wait for you. This isn't Bob and Mary homeowner sitting around who's like, oh, no problem. It seems like a nice kid. He's going to get it together. We'll give him the weekend. No, this is could be an astute investor who's got their 100-unit deal lined up that needs their money. So you need to have your stuff together too. When I was able to pick this up at 1.3, that means I bought 10 townhouses in Cambridge for $130,000. So when I purchased this property, the NOI, the net operating income on it was $46,000. My hands are pretty clean. I'm not doing the work here. I'm hiring this out. So about $25,000 per unit to renovate. Knowing that those checks that I'm cutting are feeding multiple families, that was kind of a cool experience for me. The biggest surprise that I had was that even the building department was unsure of things. When I do my duplex conversions, they come in and they know what they want. But with this one, they had to come back to me on a couple of things, which surprised me a little bit.
Interesting. In today's video, Kyle Ford, who's a mortgage broker, real estate investor, and all-around great guy, is going to break down for us exactly what's going on in this 10-plex he's working on. Fantastic project, guys, and we get deep into the numbers on this one, so you're not going to want to miss it. All right, Kyle, one of the biggest questions I get on my YouTube channel all the time is, first of all, people love the idea of this, right? A giant 10-plex, but do you get the financing first? Do you need to find the deal first? How do you put that all together? Say, you know, you've been a real estate investor for a while and you've decided, okay, I'm going to get into bigger commercial deals now. Where do you start?
Well, I think the day you become a real estate investor is the day you start finding financing. You need to be making it known to everybody in your natural market, networking events that you go to, your social media market, that you're a real estate investor, you're looking for deals, you're open to partnerships, and you're willing to provide a great return for people who are willing to finance deals. So I think from day one, you need to be raising capital for this business. When it comes to moving into multifamily, I think actually large multifamily, commercial, 6 units up, you definitely need to be in touch with a mortgage broker and understanding the financing, understanding what they're looking for. Are you going to need a phase 1 environmental? Are you going to, you know, some lenders require a home inspection for this stuff? That could mean you could spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a deal that you don't do. So there's some understanding that up front and what they're going to require. For this specific deal, I was able to acquire it knowing that I knew why, because I understood the financing, I knew why all the other deals were falling apart. So I was able to structure my financing different that allowed me to close within their 2-week time period that they wanted to get into this deal. So I think you absolutely need to understand the financing and be raising capital from day one in the business. But at the end of the day, every lender is going to want to see the deal before they give you a commitment. I've almost never heard of anybody buying one of these buildings firm. You know, if you're buying a townhouse in a hot area of any market, you might have to go firm to get it. I never heard of that on a multi, not saying it doesn't happen. So you're going to have at least some level of, some time to get your financing together. With that being said, a lot of people talk about when you do commercial, they don't care about your personal income. That doesn't mean you don't need to have your documents together.
This is really important.
You need to have your personal stuff together. They're going to look at it. It just means the debt service ratios aren't based on your line 150 of your T1 general or your T4 income. But they want to see that you can put your own food on the table. They want to see that maybe you have some experience. Do you own some smaller properties? Have you been able to professionally manage those properties and be profitable? Because that's part of some of their criteria depending on the lender. So even though the building isn't qualified based on your personal income, they're still looking at you.
Yeah, so it's really important that we get all our information ready so that when the deal comes, we can execute fast.
Absolutely. When you're talking to the seller of these properties, there could be $1 million on the table for them that they're going to get paid out on this deal. So at the end of a 30-day financing condition, if you weren't able to get your shit together for financing, there's $1 million that they're waiting on. They're not going to wait for you. This isn't Bob and Mary homeowner sitting around who's like, oh, no problem. It seems like a nice kid. He's going to get it together. We'll give him the weekend. No, this is could be an astute investor who's got their 100-unit deal lined up that needs their money. Yeah. So you need to have your stuff together too.
So Kyle Ford has a 10-plex that he's completely gutting right now in Cambridge, and he's going to show it all to us right now. Let's check it out. First of all, thank you, Kyle.
No problem, Matt. So come on through here.
So this is kind of laid out as townhouses, right?
Yeah, so these are full townhouses throughout the entire building. Essentially, there's one common hallway here, and I have 5 units on either side. The 4 corner units are all 3-bedroom. Go ahead, keep working, guys. There's 4 3-bedroom units and 6 2-bedroom units. So as we go through here, we can start on the left side. Well, I'll actually just point out, we missed here, this is another thing that I learned. When you're upgrading these buildings, you need to update fire code. So this is a whole monitoring system. So if there's ever a fire here, the fire department can come in and they're able to tell exactly what unit it's going to be in. Very cool, not cheap. So this is the first unit here. This is a 3-bedroom unit. When we purchased this building, things were very, very basic. A lot of vinyl flooring, linoleum, carpet. When we do our rentals, we like to have carpet-free units. We use an engineered laminate. I'm very lucky to have a girlfriend who's an interior designer, so she picks nice finishes for me, which really attract a top market rent and a great tenant profile. So I'll show you in the next unit, but we do contemporary trim. For this, we're doing all white kitchens, gray paint, pardon me.
Essentially, just all the finishes are standard, so all the exact same kitchens.
Everything is the exact same. So when you're doing something of this scale in terms of management, it's a real pain if you have, unit 417 is this color, unit 415 is this color, that one's put in the wrong place. So in terms of managing this and scaling this project, everything is the same. Every bathroom has the exact same tile. Every backsplash is the exact same. Every kitchen appliance is the exact same. That's also great from a leasing perspective. Our first unit is about 2 weeks away from being complete. That unit's going to be fully cleaned and fully staged. We're going to be able to take all the pictures of that and market one unit and use basically a model suite to pre-fill other units before they're done. So this is going to reduce our vacancy and at the end of the day increase our cash flow on the project.
And so I'm guessing you had to or you negotiated in bulk for a lot of the materials?
Yeah, well, so when you start ordering 10 of everything, you start dealing with different departments in certain places. I believe we have some footage of the 52-foot trailer that's just outside. That's the first time I've ever bought a trailer full of stuff. I still remember when I ordered it from the guy, he was telling me, he's like, who's going to unload the trailer? I was like, okay, well, I'll get my guys there on site, but is all my stuff going to be at the front? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, is there other people's stuff is going to be on the trailer? He's like, no, Kyle, you bought the whole trailer. It's all your stuff. So that was kind of a cool experience for me. And I thought it was going to be a lot more. It was $450 for them to leave the trailer. $450 to deliver, $450 for them to leave a trailer. This is something that I wasn't, that wasn't a cost that I had expected. I've always been able to buy my material and just bring it inside. But a project of this magnitude, having offsite store, having outside of unit storage saves the guys from just moving stuff around all the time. If I'm paying them to move things twice, that's coming right out of my bottom line. So.
All right, so now Kyle's going to dive into the numbers with us, but before we even get into the numbers, let's just talk about how this property came up. Was it MLS, private deal? Where do you find a 10 unit for 1.3?
Yeah, so this property was listed on the MLS. It was listed for several months, originally at 1.7 million.
Okay.
There were several offers on the property at that point, but the sellers were being very unrealistic about their expectations. They wanted a 2-week conditional period.
Yeah.
As you know, in commercial properties, very unrealistic. Just the commercial financing alone takes 30 days. So offers kept being accepted at much higher prices, but the deals were falling through. When this deal was brought to me, it was priced at 1.5 million. One of the realtors that I work with and I have a great relationship knew the listing agent and divulged some information that the property, that they were motivated to sell. And I was essentially told that if I could get this number, 1.3 million, on paper and close and be firm, within 2 weeks, they would take the deal. So the property originally listed for 1.7 was listed at 1.5, and I was able to get an offer firm at 1.3.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, often we find with sellers that if they've had a couple offers fall through, usually they start to get really tired by the process and fatigued. So if you can come in fast and clean, they'll usually be much more receptive, even if we are coming in at a lower price.
Absolutely, absolutely. And their big concern, because every other deal had fallen through, was the financing. And as I mentioned, you can't get commercial financing in 2 weeks. So for us on this deal, what we were able to do is we were able to secure a private lender. So on this deal, it was 100% funded out of somebody's RRSP.
That's cool.
It was very cool. Because of that, I was able to get deferred payments for an entire year on the project. Which as we go through this, you're going to understand the importance of that, because not only did we have to empty out the building and pay 3 months rent to every tenant, we also don't have any income coming in for that entire period. So servicing the debt would definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, that would really impact your cash flow. So it looks like there's a lot of other costs other than just the purchase price we need to consider on these big deals. Do you mind just kind of breaking down for us, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. So purchase price in the building was 1.3. Closing costs were approximately $25,000. Your land transfer ticket on a property like this
adds up.
It does. I've done many triplexes, many smaller buildings. This was a little bit tougher pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, definitely worthwhile. This is a big line, which is why a lot of people wouldn't do this deal. On this purchase, as I mentioned, I had 1 year deferred payments. That's not free.
Yeah.
I paid $150,000 lender fee on this property.
So for people that are kind of new to the idea of getting into bigger deals, like that at first is going to be a shocking number. Do you mind breaking, like, what does that actually look like? What's that? Why do you pay that?
So in this scenario, the reason why is the loan to value they were offering. They were offering over 100% loan to value.
Yeah.
So what is that worth, not using any of your own capital? I think a lot. Divided by a lot. So the $150,000 lender fee was a big pill to swallow in the beginning, but it allowed me to do a deal that, in my opinion, didn't exist. Without paying that fee, I would have had to put at least 35% down.
Yeah.
Probably not been able to get the deal in the first place, because I wouldn't have been able to get confirmation of financing in 2 weeks. Then when the tenants were removed, I would have had to carry a mortgage payment. And then as you can see, the massive renovation that's going on, not only am I paying trades, I'd still be servicing that debt. So though this was a tough pill to swallow, the deal didn't exist without it. And as we get lower on, I think you're going to see that that's not the end of the world. So the $200,000 in interest, that's based on a $2 million total loan. So not only is the purchase price financed, but the renos and the fee is also financed as well. So when I purchased this property, the NOI, the net operating income on it, was $46,000. I'd have to double check my numbers, but I believe that was priced out at about a 3 cap.
Okay.
So it wasn't being sold based on the cap rate.
It was on potential they were trying to sell.
On potential and cost per unit.
Okay.
This is what I was able to pick this up at 1.3. That means I bought 10 townhouses in Cambridge for $130,000. Per unit. So I was buying based on the cost per unit, but when I refinance, I'm going to be refinancing based on the cap rate.
Okay. And so before we get into cap rates, do you mind renos? So $600,000.
Yeah.
How do you go about figuring out the scope or the budget on something like this? And do you know where most of that money is spent?
Yeah. 1 unit at a time. So focus on your cost per single unit, and then extrapolate that. So I've done several flips, and I've done several apartment rentals. So I know when I renovate a 800 square foot apartment, it cost me about $25,000.
Okay.
But my hands are pretty clean. I'm not doing the work here. I'm hiring this out. So about $25,000 per unit to renovate.
Okay.
So these are townhouses. I've flipped several townhouses or semis. I was typically in the $40,000 to $50,000 range.
Okay.
Per unit.
Yeah.
So some experience was able to help me cost this out pretty quickly. The $600,000 in reno, I should actually put a comma there. It also includes a bit of the tenant buyout as well.
Okay.
So some of the cash for keys that I was able to do. And the final about $75,000 of that is for exterior renovations to the building. Concrete steps are coming out. We're doing nice decks with storage underneath. One thing with the building prior to this, because there's no garages here, garbage was outside. And even the cleaner units, garbage cans, green bins, recycling, it looks kind of trashy.
Piles up, yeah.
Yeah, no pun intended with the trashy. But we're going to be able to put nice decks with under storage.
I love that.
Just clean up the exterior of the building.
And that's great, just like thinking long term, right? Because what's the plan with this? Is the idea you're going to flip it, or are you keeping it?
I call it flip to myself, or BRRRR.
Yeah.
So the plan is definitely to keep the property, hold long term. As we get into the BRRRR numbers, you'll see that not only will we get our cash out of this deal, we're going to have a significant equity position in the property, and it's still even at the higher mortgage amount, the much larger mortgage payment, we're still going to get a positive cash flow every month. So
a lot of my audience will be familiar with the idea of BRRRRs on, say, a single family or duplex. How do you go, like, what's the difference when we're BRRRRing such a large multifamily unit building?
Tenant turnover side.
Yeah.
It's more expensive to turn tenants over on the commercial side. If you have a small building, it's 2 months rent or 1 month's rent, 60 days notice. On a larger building, it's 4 months notice, 3 months rent.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more capital outlay. But other than that, it's very much the same. Just like you're doing it if you were to do it on a single family townhouse, you're just doing 10 that all happen to be neighbors.
Yeah.
So that it's this exact same process, just multiplied.
Okay, and so with something like this, you know, we're financing privately. Do we need to worry about like seasoning or waiting a year before refinancing?
So in my experience, what I found is I prefer closing with a private loan. What I find is if you go back to the same lender in the first year, sometimes they're a little bit uncomfortable refinancing your mortgage amount to higher than your purchase price, which in this case will definitely be the case. So because I've closed privately and I'm going to be taking this to a different lender at the time, I'm not concerned with any seasoning period or anything along those lines. And with that all being said, my timeline is a year on this. So I closed January 4th. The building's going to be fully occupied by December 1st.
Awesome.
So that's, by the time it's occupied, 30 to 60 days for financing. I'm right in that year range anyways.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that you need to be aware of. But I think if you can bring a solid, 10 brand new leases, I'm going to support that. They're probably not going to ask, but I'm going to support that with first and last month bank deposits to support my rents.
Just to show.
So being that I work in the finance world and the mortgage world, I'm really going to make sure I bring a very clean file to my lender.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's our valuation. How do we determine it on large multifamilies?
So on these, every lender is going to be different. First of all, they all have their different rules. When you're dealing with more the big five banks on commercial lending, they're going to use a combination of a couple things: comparable sales, cost per unit, and cap rate. If you use more monoline lenders or trust companies, still talking about very good rates, still talking about very good loan to values, they're willing to evaluate the buildings differently. So specifically, I'm focusing on having this refied with a trust company, because they will take a straight cap rate appraisal. They're not going to look at my cost per unit. If we look at the cost per unit, it would be a much higher than any comparable sale, but my cap rate is in line with every single one of those sales. So I need to make sure I'm using a lender that is going to just go off my my income of the property.
Okay, awesome. So you've kind of laid out for us a couple different cap rates. Do you mind walking us through?
So just to note here, on the purchase, as I mentioned, $46,000 was the NOI. The average rent per unit was about $1,000 inclusive.
Yeah, which is crazy low.
It's very, very low. These are full townhouses. There's 4 3-bedrooms and 6 2-bedroom townhouses here. So when we're done on this, the 3 bedrooms will be renting for $1,950 plus utilities. The 2 bedrooms will be renting for $1,850 plus utilities. That's going to bring my net. What I've been able to do is there were some water heater rentals, got rid of those. Anything that I could to all the expenses being passed on to the tenants, anything I could to really reduce my expenses has resulted in an estimated, like I haven't filled it yet, I'm very confident on this, estimated NOI at $175,000.
That's massive value add.
We're close to triple, not quite there. Close to quadruple even. Jeez. So when we talk about those numbers, so we're here in Cambridge, Ontario right now, we're seeing most properties trading under 5% in terms of a cap rate. That's very, very common, under 5% on the cap rate. So on my first estimate here, I'm using a 5.8 cap. This is, as I believe, very conservative, which translates to, based on this net operating income, a value of the property of $3 million. So in that scenario, our total invested with the private loans, interest and fees is $2.2 million, or $2,275,000. At an 80% loan to value on the $3 million, we're going to get a $2.4 million mortgage. We're going to have very positive cash flow on that, pay out all of our loans, and put $125,000 into what I like to call HIP National Bank. That's my pocket.
Love it. Yeah, and like it's shocking, but when you really start breaking down the numbers, it makes sense, right? The income supports it.
Yeah, and if we go back to that, even that cost per unit argument, now we're talking about a $300,000 townhouse in Cambridge. They're trading well in the fours at this point, so those metrics make sense.
Gotcha.
This is really my minimum on this deal. This is where I want to be. This is where I believe I'm going to land. Is at a 5% cap rate.
Yeah.
That equates a $3.5 million value. That's going to put $525,000 into our corporate bank account.
Yeah.
Still have a $700,000 equity position, and we still have positive cash flow on those numbers.
Yeah. And then let's get into, if we get...
This is a very respected realtor that I know in this area, has priced properties at this cap rate and done projects at this cap rate. So this is kind of my happy dance. I'm pretty happy at any of these actually, but this is my very, very happy dance. That's at 3.8, which once again, the numbers in this area can support a 4.6 cap.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, we're talking about putting 725 in our pocket. And once again, very important, when it comes to the BRRRR model, you're not BRRRRing if you're not positive cash flow on the back end.
Agree.
You're just kind of being reckless, in my opinion, refinancing yourself into a negative cash flow. Even at this numbers, it's modest, but after we budget for vacancy, repair and maintenance, property management, long-term capital repairs, we are still positive cash flow at that mortgage number.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Kyle, for breaking it down in such easy, clear details. And I think this will give my audience a lot to think about. Let's not get hung up on dollar amounts. Let's get hung up on the whole big picture, right? Because doing one deal like this, if this was the first deal you were doing in your corporation, let's say we're walking away with like $500,000 to $700,000 in cash, like, wow, we could go out and buy the next property like this and probably get even more favorable terms and really start snowballing the process.
For me on this deal, my lender is very happy. They're obviously doing quite well. The second I pay them back these funds, are they going to go back to the bank and put it in at 3%? I don't think so. I would, even if I have that money in, I would pay this 100% over again every single time. I have I don't lose any sleep over it anymore. I got to be honest, that consumer mindset, when I first did it, hurt. Now I'm so far past it. So So we can come down here. The unit across the hall is pretty similar as well. You can see we got a little bit of material here throughout the place. Coming into this unit, this was the unit, the first unit that we had vacant on purchase. So as I mentioned earlier, we do the nice 5-inch contemporary trim in these units. Tenants love it, very modern, gives that new look. If we just come around here, I'll give you, these are one of our smaller kitchens, but you can see here, all white, nice black, modern hardware. We're doing a gray quartz in all the units. And one thing, as I mentioned, Chelsea, my girlfriend, we're doing black hardware and fixtures as well. Very modern, looks very high-end, very classy. So we've been able to, in a lot of my previous units, we were doing IKEA kitchens. They've worked out very well for us. I've been very happy with them. Going back to the scale of the project, we were able to negotiate with a local cabinet company, and we were only about $200 more per unit than IKEA, but that was delivered, assembled, and installed, which is, once again, that's a big win to my bottom line on this project. So I'll take you upstairs here. You can have a peek in here, just looking back at the finishes. This is a flooring that is generally a lot more expensive than what we put into our rental units. We were able to negotiate it for a lesser price than we normally pay. So I think we were picking these up at about $1.85 a square foot for a nice marble tile, which was a very good price for us. Going back to this, is just going to really attract that top-end tenant, professional, retiree, somebody who wants a nice unit. Every unit, comes with AC, as well as dishwashers and in-suite laundry. These are 3 things that I find are the best to increase maximum rent, as well as length of stay. The number one reason that I have tenants coming to me is because their current unit doesn't have AC, it doesn't have a dishwasher, so if they're coming to me because they don't have it, they're not leaving me because I do. You can see over here, just into this bedroom as well. Very good size master bedroom, easily fit a king size bed if needed. Going back to finishes, every unit's the exact same. 5-inch trim, gray paint. We do some decent light fixtures. We're able to get a little bit nicer light fixture for about the same price, and tenants seem to really like it. We get people pointing out all the time, oh my God, I love the light fixtures here. It works out well for us.
So how many guys are working at a time right now, Kyle?
There's on average about 10 trucks or vans here. At one point there was more than that, but we typically have one or two plumbing vans, 2 electrical vans, a couple carpentries. It depends on the time, what's going on right now. The entire building has been replumbed. All the electrical has been done, minus the fire system. So we got 1 van here for that. Right now we got a lot of finish guys here. We have the couple countertops going in today. We have the trim and flooring going in right now. And then I have a site supervisor that handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff for me here. First of all, fantastic at all the actual work, but handling, as trades are coming in, flow of construction. The biggest issue we have in here that we finally just start calling people now is they get lost. You kind of come out of a unit and you forget where you are. You can't find, somebody's like, I'm over here, and the whole thing just echoes. You can't hear them. So we need some walkie-talkies for the next one. So we'll come down into one of our last units here. So this can give you a little bit better idea of what these units were like. Every unit was actually relatively clean. They weren't in that bad a shape, but very dated. I mean, I love my grandma, but there's her wallpaper over to the left. Going back to, talking about maybe differences between a smaller scale project and a bigger scale project, just the working space. We've had to set up using older units as a spray shop for our painter. It's reducing the amount of time he needs to spend physically painting things, but moving this stuff around, moving 16-foot pieces of trim is a bit of a challenge. So making sure you have somebody here coordinating it, and that's Mike for me. He coordinates the whole project and communicates with all the trades. This allows me to focus on what I'm best at, which is deal acquisition. So I'm able to acquire the property and manage the project from a high level, but at the same time, as things are progressing, I can already be looking at my next projects, knowing that these guys are working here doing all the day-to-day stuff for me. So this unit that we're doing right here, this is going to be our model suite. First of all, it has great lighting, one of the considerations my contractor pointed out to me, so that's going to show well. This unit also had a fire in it before we owned it, so it was in the best shape out of them all. So we identified that, knowing that there was the least work we had to do on the walls, so we were able to have this one done first. When we're going through these units, talking a little bit about pricing, if we head into the kitchen here, on average, my kitchens are, so these cabinets are approximately 3,000 installed, countertops about 2,000 installed. I use appliances are 2,200, so 3,573. So we're in fixtures, I'd say we're in about the 8,500 per kitchen that we're spending. For each unit, it was about $3,000 for flooring, tile, and backsplash. We can pretty well double that with install, $6,000. The windows in this building were in good shape. We had to do new patio doors, $1,700 installed. Trim, I have to think about that. I think it's $1,500 to $2,000. I might be a little bit off on that one. Plumbing, every single unit was about $1,000, and electrical was one of our higher ticket items at about $5,000 per unit. So that's the general cost. When we head down into the basement, I'll show you that. So when we come into the basements, this was kind of just one open room. A lot of these tenants had people sleeping down here that shouldn't have been down here. So we have new electrical meters put in there, and we've just finished this space. This is really dark here. Let me see if I can get some light going for you guys. So we've just finished this space here, which it's no windows. This isn't a bedroom, but this is great bonus space. If you have a kid, if you have, people are just craving storage more than anything. These new condos are beautiful, but if you have a Christmas tree you don't want out year round, you're in big trouble. So the storage on these units is fantastic. Just coming around to the other side here, furnaces on this were in great shape. They were about 8 years old. Everyone has been serviced. We're adding air conditioning to every unit, approximately $3,000 installed. I mentioned earlier, we paid out any rental leases on the water heaters. That's from an NOI perspective, making sure we have max NOI. We're going to have dual laundry right over here, so every unit has in-suite laundry. That's about the scope there.
When it comes to 10-unit buildings, what's the difference? You know, a lot of us investors, we start off with small multifamilies and then we upgrade to, you know, a 10-unit like this, or we dream to upgrade to a 10-unit like this. What's the, you know, most interesting, I guess, story or weirdest difference that you've kind of noticed transitioning into the large multifamily space?
So when you really break it down to one townhouse renovation at a time, there's not a huge difference. The biggest surprise that I had was the first day I came here, and there was 4 plumbers, 3 electricians, vans, so 2 per van. Yeah. There was carpenters, there was roofers, there was just general labor guys. There was 20 plus people here, and as I was walking through the building, people would point out, that's the guy, that's the owner. And I don't feel like the guy, I don't feel like the owner, I don't feel like this bigwig, but knowing that those checks that I'm cutting are feeding multiple families, that was kind of a cool experience for me. In terms of the actual project, the permitting's a little bit different. You're dealing with commercial stuff. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me. The building department even struggled a little bit because the magnitude of this project, they thought that we had to go to new code, but we were grandfathered into a lot of things. One of the biggest surprise that I had was that even the building department was unsure of things. When I do my duplex conversions, they come in and they know what they want. But with this one, they had to come back to me on a couple of things, which surprised me a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey audience, I'm not sure if you knew this, but Kyle, he's actually only 29 years old. Yeah, 29 years old and taking down deals like this. So Kyle, I'm sure you realize a lot of my audience is younger investors or aspiring investors, and they dream of someday getting into a property like this, let alone at such a young age. Any tips or tricks that you could share with them as far as where to start, how to begin?
Refine your system on smaller buildings. I definitely, at this point, I want to be sticking with the bigger buildings, but I remember where I came from, which was the duplex, triplex, single family home. Refine your systems, get your costing down, get everything comfortable down there. But when it comes to moving up to these buildings, a lot doesn't change, but what I actually found is the people that I went to talk to were the most affluent people I knew. And even though this seemed like such a big jump to me, it was kind of small potatoes for them. And when you go up to this level, there's enough meat on the bone to pay those affluent people a good equity stake or a good interest or a lender fee, in this case, to finance these deals. So stick to your systems that you learned in the 2s and the 3s, and just add a 0 on the end of everything. And don't, even though it's a big deal for you, the people who are financing the deal for them, not that $1 million is chump change to anybody, but for them, it's not as big of a leap as it is for you. So stick to your systems, remember what you learn, and just add a 0 on the end. I hope that's not being too passé with it, but...
Yeah, no, great advice, and it's absolutely true. All right, Kyle, how much time are you spending here day to day? How much time are you pouring into this project? Because this is a massive project, renovating 10 units all at once.
Yeah. I can't give you an hourly, weekly thing, but what I can say is I'm not here every day swinging the hammer. When I was doing my 2s and 3 unit buildings, I demoed almost every single unit. I was running materials. If I had to paint sometimes or do something like that, I was being very involved in them because the deal needed me to be involved to get the profit margin that I needed. What I found here is I was able to move into a true real estate investor role. The classic, not working in the business, working on the business. So I do try not to be here too much. Candidly, I hope the guys don't hear this, but they all start talking to me and not working. So I try to be here not too much, but I'm definitely here a couple times a week checking on things. In the beginning, I was here a lot more, but for example, in the thick of this project, I did a 3-week vacation to Europe.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of this project. So this is about having a great team of people. You don't nickel and dime your contractors. These are people that are handling one of the largest investments you've maybe ever done in your life. You got to pay these people accordingly. And also, you need to know that if you're doing a project in the middle of July and August, that's their busy time. You need to have your financing together, your funds available, so you can get these people on site. I know in August things got really tight. I started prepaying my contractors for certain things because they prioritize my job.
Build that relationship.
Yeah.